Hi NPN family, it's great to be back with you again for the second week in a row. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Adam May and I'm privileged since the beginning of January to have assumed the role of UK Director of Neighbourhood Prayer Network, and it's great that I'm able to spend time recording this message with you. It's been another exciting week in the life and ministry of Neighbourhood Prayer Network, and I'll come on to that shortly. But I just want to say that we as a ministry have been praying for you. One of the things that we do at Neighbourhood Prayer Network is regularly through our NPN Watch, stop and pray for those of you who are engaged with us through our Facebook page, through our Facebook group. For those of you that receive our regular e-news, for those of you that connect with us in any way, we pray for you. We pray for you, and we have been doing. So I pray that whatever this last week has been like, you have known God with you. I'm somebody that is, as I said to Mike Jollick on BBC Radio Kent a couple of weeks ago, I believe that we need to keep the message of Christmas, that reminder that God is with us, very much close to our hearts. And so for me, that reminding myself daily of the fact that Jesus is the one who comes to remind us that God is with us is something that's really dear. And I pray this week that you have known God really close to you. I want to say thank you this week in my message to all of those of you who have continued to get in touch. And I don't say it simply so I can have more people get in touch with me and send me nice messages. But I do want to say thank you to each and every person who gets in touch with me to wish me congratulations and the assurance of prayers in my new role. But this week, my inbox has also been filled with people sharing testimony. Now, some of you might be saying, testimony is a word I'm not sure I understand. Testimony basically means story. And I want to say thank you to those of you who've been getting in touch, emailing me, ukdirector@neighbourhoodprayer.net, and sharing testimony, sharing story. It gladdens my heart to see how God is at work through this network. And so this week, the focus of what I want to say to you is keep sending the stories. Keep sending the stories. My friend and very dear colleague Lisa Hutt talks about the fact that the words that God has given her recently is about the storehouses of testimony. The storehouses of testimony. Now, when I think of a storehouse, I think of it being a quite big building. And storehouses of testimony mean that there are big buildings full of stories. I believe that for many of us, before we can move forward from this pandemic and we are hearing good news on the decrease of the Omicron variant, yes, we still know that there are people who are being affected by it, but the number of infections is right down. So we are hearing government ministers talk about the fact that they can see a brighter future. I think before many of us walk into that brighter future, we need to just make a record of what we've sensed God saying to us, where we've sensed God being, and we need to share story. And so as Neighbourhood Prayer Network, we want to invite you to continue to keep sharing the stories to help us build the storehouse of testimony. Neighbourhood Prayer Network is privileged to get and has had many stories over its 10 years as a ministry. But I believe this last season, this last period of the pandemic, we need to collect the stories. So if you have a story, no matter how big or how small, get in touch and share your story. We are keeping a repository of them. So drop me an email, ukdirector@neighbourhoodprayer.net. Share your story with me. We shared a story last week in our e-news of Margaret who shared her testimony, her story on the weekly National Day of Prayer and Worship, and she said that she wasn't able to go and to physically prayer walk her street. So instead, she got in her car and drove on New Year's Day to pray God's blessing and to dedicate her community to the Lord as we begin 2022. We've had another story in our e-news this week of those people that did things around Dedicate the Year. But it isn't just Dedicate the Year stories that we want. It's stories of whatever God has been doing. So get in touch and share those stories with me. I'm really privileged this week to announce some very exciting news for Neighbourhood Prayer Network. You'll know, many of you who've been with us and walked the journey through the pandemic, that we have been privileged as a ministry to champion the Daily Hope free telephone line put together by our friends at the Church of England, Faith in Later Life, and through the amazing ministry of Connections at Holy Trinity Claygate in Surrey. We've been sharing that, and we've been encouraging you to share that telephone number, that free telephone number, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with those in your street and in your community who are unable to get out and need to hear God's words of comfort and hope. Well, I'm privileged this week to be able to announce that in February, the blessings that we have enjoyed as a ministry over this last year from my friends Lisa Hutt and Wendy Thomas, they are going to be made available on the telephone line in the month of February. Option 3, daily blessings. And it's still, for those of you that are going, is this something that we should be doing? Yes, it is. The Daily Hope telephone line is still getting tens of thousands of calls every month still. And again, going back to story, Pippa Kramer, who is the co-founder of the Daily Hope telephone line, was sharing just this week with Lisa, Wendy and I about how people have said that the telephone line has been their lifeline. They've shared their story and they're saying, please don't let it stop. So as much as I want to encourage you to pray for the opportunity that has been afforded this next month for us to appear on the Daily Hope telephone line, pray for those who are writing to the Archbishop, to pray for those who are writing to the Daily Hope team and sharing their story so that voice may be heard. I believe that through a partnership with Faith in Later Life, that there's something really important about the church having a prophetic voice for older people, and I pray that those letters would be part of helping remind us of the importance of older people. So this has been a really exciting week. That is just one of many exciting developments, but it reminds me of the fact that we need to think about story. So would you share your story with me? If you want to share it anonymously and you don't want anybody else to know about it in the network, but you want to share it because you think it might help others, not named, but shared, get in touch. Drop me an email, ukdirector@neighbourhoodprayer.net. There's much more I could say, but I just want to say thank you as I come to a close for you and for all that you're doing in your streets and in your communities to pray, to show God's care and to share the gospel as appropriate. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I look forward to being back with you next week. God bless.